Welcome to the Overlady Reads, the show where I, the Overlord of a wife, the Overlady, she reads, and my name is Ben. Her name's Lucy. You also been going by Empress as well nowadays, and then yeah. So you read Oathbringer, and now we're going to talk about part 4 of Oathbringer. This is our kind of recap. This is her first time reading it. I've read it like 14 times, and so yeah. If this is a great series. Hi, dog. This is a great time to mention that in part 4 of this series, that this is a great way of refreshing your memory for Rhythm of War.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mate, I wouldn't go off of this.
Well, anyway, it's time to jump right into it.
Yeah. I'm gonna do this sort of reverse style.
Cool.
Right. I'm going to do the non-Shadesmar stuff first.
Yeah.
And then do the Shadesmar stuff.
Yep.
They happen at the same time.
Yes.
But going back and forth between two places when you're already having to go back and forth between characters, it just seemed a bit confusing.
That's fair.
So I'm just going to do them separately.
That's fine.
Cool. So the first flashback is quite soon after the rift.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a meeting between Gavilar.
Yeah. That's correct. Cool. Yes, his name is Gavilar.
And all of the Alefka High Princes.
Yeah.
And whenever Gavilar holds these meetings to sort of like show who's in charge.
Yeah.
He has Dalinar sort of like brooding in the corner.
Oh, yes.
As sort of like a reminder.
Yeah.
As to what
do what I say
can
or
release.
Mm-hmm. Do what I say or get rifted, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be going well, so he gives Dalinar the signal that he can leave, which is lighting the fireplace.
Excellent.
Because now Dalinar can't be in a room that smells like a fireplace.
Excellent.
Don't know why, never
Can't
explained.
Think why.
And Dalinar leaves, and he's going around searching for some wine to drink. Because nowadays he likes to drink the occasional.
He likes a bit of the tiffy,
bottle
doesn't
and
he?
a half of wine. So he's going through like Gavilar's wine places that he keeps wine, and he can't find any. He's walking down the corridor and he runs into Adolin.
Oh,
who's
yes.
like, he's dressed as a soldier, but because it's Adolin, he's had it fancy embellished, so it looks pretty.
Yeah.
And Adolin's like, hey Dad, I've got a duel coming up. Do you want to come and watch? It's going to be ranked and I might be able to earn myself a shard blade.
Aww.
And he's like, why are you talking to me so informally? I am your boss.
I am your commander.
And Adolin, being as lovely as Adolin is like, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Sir, would you wish to attend my dueling match, sir?
Yeah. He's a good lad,
he's
Adolin
lovely.
is.
He's really lovely.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar dismisses him, so Adolin runs off after his friends. And Dalinar, who is struggling to find wine, realizes that his last resort is his new favourite place that he goes for wine, and that is the Beggar's Porch.
Oh, yes.
Where it's sort of a thing in Alefka where beggars can wait outside the palace. Yeah. And the king and queen will give them the leftover food.
Yes. He's
got a favourite beggar who is Azu. A-Z-U.
Oh, okay.
Azu?
I don't know.
Azu.
Does he have any good animals?
I don't know. He might do. To be fair, he does talk about some interesting things.
Mm-hmm. He does, doesn't he?
So his new favourite friend is his friend because he always seems to have alcohol on him, no matter what. And he's sitting with his favourite friend who is a little bit not quite right. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about being tortured.
Yes.
And the desolations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So immediately I was like, he's some sort of like Radiant or Herald or something.
Yeah.
Didn't know what.
Yep.
Now do.
You now do because you finished the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I went for at the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, fun fact, that particular beggar is seen in the prologue of Way of Kings.
Yeah.
At the Beggar's Feast during Gavilar's assassination.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I always just assume that if there's a random beggar, it's Hoyd.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yes. This one isn't Hoyd. But
No,
yes.
this one wasn't Hoyd. He then drunkenly stumbles back to his room sometime later.
Yeah.
And he passes a room where he overhears Adolin and Elhokar talking to Gavilar about his problem.
Yeah.
And it turns out they are very aware that he has been searching the palace for wine.
Yeah.
And they were very aware that he was down on the beggar's platform.
Porch, whatever it is. Yeah.
Hanging out, drinking wine, because that was the only place he could find it.
Yeah.
And Gavilar suggests maybe going on a hunt to try and
cheer him up.
Distract him.
Yeah.
Because he clearly needs a distraction right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he then goes back to his rooms and he falls asleep on a sofa.
Well done, Dalinar.
Yeah. So the next Dalinar flashback, they've just got back from the Shattered Plains where they've discovered the Parshendi.
Yes.
And Gavilar's all excited about what's gonna come next. Dalinar goes back to his room and he's like angrily searching for some wine.
Yeah.
Because he's not had any and he needs wine.
Yeah.
Renarin and Adolin can hear sort of like all the banging and clattering around.
Yes.
So they go in to see if he's okay and he like shouts at them to get out.
Yeah.
And like in his head he's like, their mum poisoned them against me. I'm sure she was saying horrible things about me to them.
Yeah.
No wonder my sons don't like me. It's all Evie's fault. It's like, oh.
No.
And then as he's searching, one of them comes up behind him. And he's like, that Adolin, always just turning up when he's not wanted.
Oh no, I know what bit this is.
Yeah, and he turns around and he's like, oh, it's that one.
Yeah.
And Renarin,
yeah.
like poor little like 12-year-old Renarin.
I don't even think he's that old at this point. Yeah, he would be, yeah.
Yeah, he's about 12.
Yeah.
And he's like, hi, Dad. I love you. I notice that your wine always runs out quickly. So I use the pocket money that Gavilar gives me to get you some more wine.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar like hugs him and like they're both just like hug crying.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar's like, what did your mum tell you about me?
Yeah.
And he's like, she used to say that you were the best man and
the
you
greatest
were
soldier ever.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
So horrible.
Yeah.
And they're just crying and hugging.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. I'll say that's like basically the emotional peak of the Dalinar flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like every being killed was pretty horrifying, but that's like the soul crushing moment. That is the oh no.
I just feel for Renarin. I just want to give Renarin all the cuddles.
Yes,
like I love Renarin.
Renarin is a good lad.
I just feel for him.
Yeah.
The next one is just after Gavilar's assassination.
Okay.
And it's Gavilar's funeral. So he's sort of like been laid out in like a position, like his dead body's been posed in a position.
Yes, because they soul cast them into statues.
Yeah. The Ardent is leading the ceremony, and she mentions that Gavilar is now fighting in the Tranquil Halls.
Tranquiline Halls, yes.
And Dalinar's like, yeah, but what about once we claim them? What happens then?
Yeah.
And he's sort of like looking for a bit of reassurance that he'll find peace and, you know, after the fighting's done, can relax. It'll be nice and peaceful.
Yeah.
And she sort of like laughs like, oh, Blackthorn, they'll find some more fighting you.
It's like, don't worry, Blackthorn. They'll never stop fighting in the Tranquiline Halls.
Yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry yourself.
And it's like, oh, that's not
what he was asking.
I wanted.
Yeah.
But never mind, I've got no choice now.
Yeah.
So then the stone soul casting happens. And he looks over and Navani is stood with Elhokar and Yasna.
Yeah.
I'm glad she acknowledges her children.
Yeah. Like, you know, she actually spent some time with them.
But Yasna walks out.
Yeah.
Because who wants to really watch that?
Yeah.
Elhokar then gets up and he demands that they go and they hunt down the Parshendi as a vengeance pact.
Yeah.
Wants to know who's with him. So Sadius immediately agrees to be with him.
Yeah.
Dalinar just walks out. He's like, I need some wine.
Yeah.
So he walks down the hallway and Adolin follows him to see if he's all right. And he's like, Adolin, just go back, pledge our allegiance.
Yeah.
I just need to have some time alone.
Yeah.
To drink my wine.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's trying to get into his room, like he's already a little bit drunk at this point.
Yeah.
And he can't quite get the key in the door.
Yeah.
And he can hear a voice coming from down the hallway.
Okay.
So he follows the voice and it's Yasna reading The Way of Kings.
Oh, I love this scene.
Yeah.
Oh, this is one of my favourite scenes.
It's nice to have a Kholinar emotional scene, isn't it?
I know, right? Yeah.
So Dalinar goes in and he asks her to just read it to him.
Yeah.
So she reads the entire book to him.
Yeah.
So they're there for hours just listening to this book.
Oh, it's one of my favourite moments.
I know.
Yeah.
It is really lovely.
I really like that moment.
And then she finishes the books. It's finished.
Yeah.
And they both just cry and they hug each other.
Yeah.
And they go their separate ways.
Yeah.
And it's sweet.
Yeah.
Dalinar then leaves and he finds Adolin and he apologizes for being a terrible father to him and Renarin. And he decides that he's gonna go to the plains alone.
Yeah.
That he's gonna travel ahead of everyone by boat.
Yeah.
And on his way, he's gonna make a stop.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave Dalinar's flashbacks. Yeah. I have to say, they were probably my favourite flashbacks.
Yeah.
I've really loved the contrast between the Blackthorn and Dalinar.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see just how...
The kind of the in between man.
Yeah, like how much of a rock bottom he hit.
Yeah.
And how he came back from that. I guess his comeback from his drinking doesn't really happen until part 5, but it's like nice to sort of see that he wasn't always this like really moral, upstanding man that didn't do anything against the codes. Like, it was interesting to see how
he got the reputation he got. Yeah.
Because Dalinar nowadays is quite boring.
In your opinion.
He has these amazing, like, moments.
Yeah.
But between those moments, he just sort of doesn't do anything. He's just an old man.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to see him being everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed the Dalinar flashbacks.
I think there's kind of like 4 Dalinars. There's kind of like 4 Dalinars.
Yeah.
There is the Blackthorn. There is post Rift.
Yeah.
There is after the Night Watcher. And then there's kind of whatever he's going to be, like part 5, he remembers part 5 onwards, you know, whatever the character he's going to be now, where he remembers everything that's happened, but then he's still got those years in between back. Yeah. And yeah, I think the post-Rift, pre-Night Watcher Dalinar is one of the most interesting, just because he's so rock bottom, and you've seen the character, what he was before and what he was after. Yeah. And so seeing that in between is like, wow, that is a horrible like place to be in your life. So,
I love Dalinar.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna cover Szeth.
Okay, yes.
Who I love Szeth.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy part 4 Szeth.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird to go into this skybreaker training competition. Yeah. Like, it just seemed a bit beneath him. Yeah. And like, it definitely showed that it was beneath him. Yeah. So Szeth is a skybreaker.
Skybaker.
He's baking cakes in the sky.
Yeah, he's a skybaker, yeah.
He's at a skybreaker fortress. Yeah. And he is becoming an apprentice to potentially be a skybreaker. Yeah.
They have like an application process for being a squire kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's decided that once he passes, he's going to go back to Shinovar and get the justice for what he was made to do.
Yeah.
All those years that he was truthless.
Yeah.
So the first thing he has to do is he has to swear the first ideal.
Yep.
Which he whispers to the dead voices that he hears in his head. They explain the procedure for how to be a full skybreaker, saying all of the oaths and stuff. And they say that they're going to put them through some tests to see whether they're good enough.
Yeah.
But he already is, so it's...
Yeah.
And then when they convince a spren to bond with them, they'll be ready to say the third ideal onwards.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the skybreaker induction is a little different to like windrunners and stuff like that, where it's a very, very structured. And I do think how much you enjoy this part of Szeth, I think depends on how interested you are in seeing what an organization of the Knights Radiance fully operational looks like. And I don't think you're very interested in that.
Well, he only really, I don't know, it's just boring.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sorry.
You're not the only person that doesn't like the Szeth bits in part 4.
Like, I normally love Szeth, and having Nightblood, is quite nice.
Yeah.
But he just felt like he was being treated like a small child.
Yes.
Like, it didn't feel like he was the assassin in white.
Yeah.
He was just like some kind of teenager wanting to be a Radiant. Yeah. Going to the Radiant tests.
Well, I was going to say, because he kind of, from the perspective of people on Roshar, because of his big baby eyes, they do see them as childish.
I know. But
so at least he doesn't lead into it. Like, he does act like, he does I know better than this. He doesn't think, I'm not worthy of this. He's
I know.
He passes them all with flying colours.
But it's just...
That's a pun, that was.
Cool. Just a bit dull.
That's fair.
So his first test is they go to the Pure Lake. Well, they're already at the Pure Lake, but they go to a part of the Pure Lake. Yeah. And they've got to catch some escaped prisoners. So he beats his one up, and then he goes to the prison. Yeah. And then he's like, well, what about a warrant for this guy? Because he realises that the reason that the prisoners all escaped is because they were being treated badly. Yeah. The warden was crooked, taking all the money, not really feeding the prisoners or clothing them or looking after them. Yeah. So they're like, yep, we've got his warrant. So then Szeth kills him. And they're like, cool, well done. Good detective skills. You passed your first test. Yeah. And it's like, well, obviously, he's not stupid. Yeah. And then his next...
Oh, he kills the jailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then his next... Oh, I think he says the second ideal after that. Yeah. And then he gets to be able to fly.
Yes. Because the skybreaker's second ideal is... I remember it's... So third is you sway yourself to a person. Fourth is ideal. Fifth is the law. So what's the second ideal? I don't know, it's just being a police officer, I guess.
Yeah. The second test that he has to do, there's a load of poles with some colour bags on top. Yeah. And the idea is that you have to make it to sundown with the fewest marks on your clothing as possible. Yeah. So he's obviously much better than the other recruits. Yes. So he's got no stains on him whilst they're absolutely covered in paint. So they start ganging up against him to try and get him. They get a few hits in. He breaks a pole. He starts hitting bags back at them. Yeah. He then kicks someone in the back and uses them as a shield. Yeah. They really go to town getting him. He runs out of stormlight and he falls in the water. Yeah. Test is over. He comes out the water and he's like, well, the water's washed it all off, so I technically don't have any marks on me. Yeah. They're like, wow, you're really good at finding loopholes. You win. Yeah. 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 And then Nale comes back and he's like, right, fun and games is over. We've got to be serious because Radiants are back and we need to go and be Radiants. Yeah. So they go on this he's going to teach them the 2 secrets. Yes. Which I love that he teaches them the 2 secrets. Would be nice to know them.
I was gonna say this is so early on. This is the Secrets of the Recreants. Yeah, and I like early on. Yasna's thinking about the Secrets of the Recreants, and then you cut to black just before she actually thinks about them. And then it's like Nale is like, I'm going to tell you about the Secrets of the Recreants, then it cuts to black just before he tells them.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure there's another character
I'm sure there's another one as well,
they're like, let me tell you the secret of the Recreants. Cuts to black.
It's a good build up because it's like building momentum. You can get frustrated, and then it's like when you do find it out, it's like, oh,
I know. I just wanted to know it before the other characters did.
Yeah.
So then they fly for 3 days, and along the way they stop off at Nale's ancient hideouts where he keeps extra stormlight so they can gather stormlight.
Cool.
They stop at a town, they leave the others behind, and Szeth and Nale go ahead to a courthouse.
Okay.
And Nale tells Szeth that they failed to stop the desolation. He summons his honor blade.
Yeah.
He tells Szeth that he desires to be honorable, but it's chaotic.
Yeah.
And that Szeth will get to swear the third ideal soon. But he can decide who to follow. And then they're having a talk, and Szeth's like, well, by spending all of your time and effort chasing down and killing potential surge binders and ignoring criminals, it's not just. And Nile agrees that it is hypocritical.
Yeah.
And then he summons his shard blade and explains that he's the only herald that joined his own order.
Yes.
And then he tells Szeth that he needs to know about I can't say it.
I can't say it either. Ahariatium.
Ahariatium.
The Last Desolation.
The Last Desolation.
Yeah. That's capital L, Last Desolation. Wait, no, that's little L, Last Desolation. Oh, no.
So that's Szeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it falls differently for different people.
I know. Yeah. I like Szeth. I just didn't enjoy part 4 Szeth.
Yeah, the skybreaker stuff.
Love part 5 Szeth.
Yes.
Because part 5 Szeth is Szeth.
Is Szeth instead of...
It's not Szeth being treated like small child.
Yeah.
The next lot of non-Shadesmar stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like split between Dalinar and Navani.
Okay.
But they're in scenes together, and some scenes are through Navani's point of view, some are through Dalinar's point of view. So it's hard to talk about them separately.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go into it.
Cool.
Right. So the first meeting of the coalition happens, and Dalinar's been really distant since he got his memories back.
Yeah.
So he's sort of like sitting in the corner of the room, and Navani is taking charge of the meeting in his place. It's an Alethi tradition to bring your own chair.
Yes.
So everyone turns up with their own chair.
Yeah.
And everyone carries their own chair.
Yeah.
She excuses Taravangian and the Prime from carrying their own because the Prime is a small child.
Yes.
And Taravangian is really old.
Like a super old man, yeah.
But everyone else carries their own chair, apart from Sadius's wife.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're still pretending to host her. I think they should have assassinated her in the night at some point and just played ignorant. Because
there's still a whole 1/10 of their country.
I know, but no one likes them.
A quarter of their military and yeah.
But I just think you should have poisoned her in the night and pretend that it was a heart attack or something, you know? I was
going to say, they're already at risk of, civil war in Irithiru. Aren't they, Daisy? Mwah!
If Sadius's troops want to go back to Alefkar, they're more than welcome
to. But yeah, because of the death
kick them out.
Because of the death of Toril, they're already at the point of civil war. So it's if we killed Eli, we'd have to kill a lot of thousands of troops in the city.
No, you just send them back to Alefkar.
I mean, they've sent them off to Phelan City, haven't they? They're just just get out of here.
Go and pick up rocks.
Go pick up rocks.
So the meeting kicks off, and everyone seems to be trying to win the meeting.
Yeah.
So they all want everyone else to either come and fight one of their silly little civil wars for them.
Yeah.
Or they're expecting people to give them all of the trade rights through the portals. And it's just not sort of working as Navani and Dalinar would want it to.
Yeah.
And then Salius's wife, being the lovely person she is,
Yes.
suggests that they should attack Shinovar to get all of their money. And that really puts everyone into arguing, because obviously the people that they've joined in a coalition with have always been worried that Alefkar just wants to be all
attacky,
evadey.
Yeah.
And now they've got someone from Alefkar being attacky and invadey.
And they're like, oh, hey, now the gloves come off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all just having a big old argument.
Yeah.
And Navani is trying to calm it all down.
Yeah.
So then she works out that she can take back control. So the way she does this is she uses everyone's strengths to show what the coalition could be.
Yeah.
So she gives the Azir people the opportunity to become the lawmakers.
Yeah.
And the ones that get to write all of the, like, they get to do the code of law and meld the coalition together.
Yeah.
Fen is known for being, Phelan is known for being really good at trade.
Yeah.
So she gives Fen the sort of like trade opportunity to control the portals.
Yeah.
And Alefka's really good at fighting.
Yeah.
So she obviously offers to train and help out with troops.
Yes.
So then that gets everyone together. And they work out that Yakaved is probably the place that's next going to get hit up by the Parshendi. So they all pledge troops and they offer to help defend.
Yeah.
And that's the meeting.
Yeah.
It's quite a cool meeting.
Yeah.
It was nice to sort of see them trying to get people to work together that don't want to work together. And it was nice that they managed to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
After all of this worry about it.
Yeah, the whole book's kind of been building up to we need to get kings in the same room talking.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So, because Dalinar's war expertise, in order to sort of give him a purpose, he gets sent to Vedanar.
Yeah. Capital of Yakaved.
Cool. Let's just say Yakaved then.
Yeah, you can just say Yakaved.
To survey their fortifications. And now that he's got his memories back, all he can hear in his head is Evie crying and people screaming. So he's not having the best time.
Yeah.
Taravangian joins him, and they talk about mortality together.
Yeah.
As you do. And Taravangian talks about enslaving Spren in Fabrials.
Yeah.
And it sort of gets too overwhelming for Dalinar. So Dalinar nopes out. Like, he makes an excuse and he goes to hang out with some soldiers from one of their and they're talking about the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the soldiers are telling him about what it was like, and they start talking about the Frill.
Yes.
And Dalinar realizes that he never conquered that side of him. It just sort of left.
Yeah.
And it clearly came here instead.
Yeah.
So this Frill is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know what to make of it.
Yeah.
I've been suspecting for a while that there was something not quite right about it.
Yeah.
But I was never able to sort of like put my finger on it.
For years, I was just convinced the thrill was just what they called that adrenaline rush you get when you're fighting.
See, that's the thing. That's what I thought it was at first, but then it felt like something more. The fact that he would literally black out and then like come to his senses a couple of hours later, and everyone was dead, and he was killing his own men. Like, it didn't feel right, but I just couldn't work out what it was.
Yeah, I think it was because during Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, I was quite against the idea that it was like a magical effect, and so in Oathbringer, it becomes obviously very clear that it is not just the adrenaline rush you get when you're fighting.
Yeah, that's cool. So Dalinar leaves the storm bunker.
Yeah.
And he goes to do what he's actually come here to do.
Yeah.
Which is to inspect the wall.
Yeah.
So he is doing that. And he hears a voice telling him to give in.
Ooh.
So he, like, freaks. He realizes he needs a drink.
Yeah.
So he starts heading back to the Oath Gate quite quickly.
Yeah.
And on his way there, he runs into Navani.
Yeah.
Who is with some scribes, and she's with some... Are they called Ardents?
Ardents, yeah.
And they're, like, the top Ardents from, like, the top church.
Yeah.
Of the Vorin religion.
They're the leaders of the Vorin, the Adentia. And
they are like, Dalinar, we have declared that you are a heretic.
Yeah.
You are now excommunicated. You are no longer the head of the church.
Yeah. Dalinar is like, I cannot deal with this right now.
Yeah, he's like, if I stay here, I'm going to punch this man.
Yeah.
So he runs past him to the Oath Gate.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a shard blade anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So despite the warnings that he's been given by the Stormfather, he summons some sort of, like, with his bonding power, he summons some sort of, like, bright white key thing.
Yes.
He hears, like...
The Stormfather's not very happy with him.
He hears, like, groaning.
Yes.
And he obviously opens the portal.
Yeah. Yes.
Transfers himself back to...
Irithiru.
Yeah. And he runs into Adelin's room.
Yeah.
He ransacks his son's room.
Yeah.
He finds his, like, storage of wine and he downs it all and just passes out.
Yeah. Yeah. The Stormfather thing is, it does seem like the bond allows him to summon him as a shard blade, because that's what he summons. He summons it as a shard blade. But what happens to, like, you know when Syl's like a little lady and she's like floating around, and then he summons her, and then Cal summons her as a shard blade. What happens to the little lady? She goes into the blade, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when you try and summon the High Storm into? You might get rid of the High. So he's like, oh no, don't do that. And also, he's a much bigger, more powerful Spren, so that's why it was like...
He was not happy with it.
He was not happy with that. There's a big risk when it comes to summoning the Stormfather as a shardblade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up on the stone floor of a room. And he's looking around and he realizes that it's Norden?
Noadon.
Noadon.
I was going to say Naruto. I was like, man, Dalinar visits Naruto?
Yeah.
Yeah. Noadon's room.
Noadon's room.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, this is the weird vision, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's surprised because he and the Stormfather had agreed that he wasn't going into any more visions because Odium turned up last time.
And it was too risky, yeah.
Yeah. So he was quite surprised that he was in a vision.
Yeah.
And when he the vision of Noadon is when Noadon is like a young guy about to face the desolation.
Yeah.
He looks at the desk and Noadon is there, but he's an old guy.
Yes.
And he's writing something. So Dalinar's like, I get to watch him writing The Way of Kings.
Yeah.
So he goes over and he's like, are you writing The Way of Kings? And he's like, no, shopping list!
Yes.
He's like, I always wanted to try this bread from Shinovar because it's so soft and fluffy.
Yeah.
So I'm just writing the ingredients and then I'm going to go and buy them. Come along. He jumps off the balcony. Dalinar's like, I also have radiant abilities.
Yeah.
I can do that too. So that he jumps off after him. And in the sky there's like a weird shadow that passes by the sun. And he's like, Noadon, you're not concerned about that. And he doesn't acknowledge this weird shadow thing.
Yeah.
And they're having like a big philosophical talk. Yeah. And Dalinar is frustrated about the others not kind of joining.
Yeah.
And like he's pondering life.
Yeah.
And then this giant thunderclast appears.
Okay.
And Norden touches it and he's like, it represents the pain and the burden of the frills. And Dalinar says that he's a hypocrite. And Noadon's like, no, just a man in the process of changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really sweet.
That line, sometimes a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing,
Yeah.
I really like that.
And then the vision ends with Norden saying that he's forgotten the most essential part of the journey. And then he wakes up and he's just lying there with an empty wine bottle in his hand.
Yeah.
And he's remembering Gavilar's funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Dalinar.
Poor Dalinar.
He's not in a good place at the moment.
He's not.
He has definitely gone back to the before times.
Mm-hmm.
So Navani, it then swaps to Navani.
Yeah.
It's like a week or so later. Dalinar has not left his room. He's just been in there drinking. And Navani meets with their High Prince allies from Alethkar. And they're complaining about Dalinar.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, he's grieving at the moment. Just give him a bit of space and time.
Yeah.
And they talk about how
Irithiru
is suffering because of the lack of, the amount of labour that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And they haven't got any parshmen that can do it. And they've got quite a lot of, infrastructure problems.
Yeah.
And Navani is very resentful of the fact that Dalinar is able to lie in his room grieving.
Yeah.
And she's not given that luxury because one of them has to be strong and stay on top of it. And she's hoping that one day it will be reversed and he'll do this for her.
Yes.
Going to be interesting to see if that happens.
Mm-hmm.
She asks that they keep the whole High King
Business.
Agreement quiet.
That's the agreement between Elhokar and Dalinar. Yeah.
So in order to get Elhokar to not abdicate,
they
were like, look, Dalinar can be king of
Irithiru.
And you can just see him as some sort of High King.
He's the High King, yeah.
And Elhokar went for that, so they kind of made that agreement.
Yeah.
But obviously Elhokar's not there at the moment. They don't particularly want to put this in place.
Yeah.
They're only doing it for his benefit anyway. So they're like, maybe don't tell our allies about that at the moment.
Yeah, let's just keep that on the down low. That's
Yeah. The meeting finishes and she goes to the library where Yasna is working with a team of Ardents to transfer the gem memories that they found into text and then translate it. And obviously they haven't got enough people, so it's taking quite a long time.
Yeah.
Renarin's there because he's learning how to write.
Yeah.
Sweet. And he...
Oh, is he learning how to write?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's quite convinced that there's some kind of pattern to the way that the gems were placed in the drawers.
Okay.
So he's working on that, but he doesn't really get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
I
say we never talked about those in the last video, did we?
Yeah.
The gem archive.
We didn't talk about the epigraphs, no.
No. That's fine.
Cool.
That's fine. They were fancy.
I'm sure they're never going to come back.
Well, no, they give you a good picture of what happens during the time of the Recreants, because that's when they were made.
Yeah, they were interesting.
They were hinting at the big reveal of the Recreants, and then before we missed them, then these epigraphs are Hessi's Mythica, which is just telling you stuff about the Unmade, which is cool.
No, I didn't like Hessi's Mythica.
Oh, I loved Hessi's Mythica, but I'm a big fan of the Unmade.
It focused too heavily on the one that gives you future vision.
Oh, Moloch.
At which point...
Yeah.
I'm already very suspicious of Renarin.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're focusing on Moloch so much.
Yeah.
Makes me think that there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
So anyway. she asks Yasna for any of the translations they have on the fabrials of the tower, because obviously she's still trying to get
the city Earthiru
to work.
Yes.
And they just can't work it out yet.
Yeah.
I won't throw my
Earthiru
theory in.
What's your Earthiru theory?
The spaceship.
Oh yes, you managed to independently come to the Earthiru as a spaceship theory, which is amazing. So yeah, well done to Lucy.
I don't think it was a spaceship.
Yeah.
I think it was used to travel through the cognitive realm.
Okay, yeah.
As a kind of submarine spaceship-y thing.
A transport, yes.
A transport of sorts.
I just was very, very happy when you came to me and you were like, was Earthiru? I don't think what you quite said it just is Earthiru a spaceship, but then I had the fun of showing you the wobs we have about Earthiru not being a spaceship. In those exact words.
Again, could be a submarine.
Could be a submarine. Could be a submarine.
We need to go through the entire transport list.
Yeah, there is an aircraft carrier, you know.
Well, no, it clearly isn't.
That would be silly.
That would be silly. So Yasna gives her those, and in the readings, she reads about how back when those numbers were appearing on the wall, it was Renarin that did those.
Yes.
He didn't want people to know about his power.
Yeah.
But he also wanted to warn Dalinar. And he kind of knew how to recognize and write numbers.
Yeah.
So he was writing the numbers on the wall, and that's why they looked a bit childish.
Yes.
Because obviously he's not had a lot of practice in writing.
Numbers. Yeah.
It's adorable.
It's very
I like
adorable.
that.
Yeah.
I would never have come up with that.
Yeah.
But it was adorable.
Is it not revealed in Words of Radiance that it was Renarin that was writing numbers? Oh, interesting.
No. I was convinced it was just a spren.
Oh, okay.
Counting
down.
Well, yeah. I thought it was either a spren finding it funny that it was happening and being like, ha ha ha, you've got 20 more days.
Okay.
Or I thought it was a spren, a Syl type spren. It was like, no, please, you've only got 10 days left.
Yeah.
Work faster.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then it also talks about how someone called the Stump is currently on their way to Azir.
Yes.
And she is a truth watcher.
Yes.
So I now know what the Stump is.
Yes.
And it's interesting that she's a truth watcher.
Isn't it just?
Because we have another truth watcher.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in Azir have already told Yasna that they're going to draw Lif's spren for them.
Yeah.
So I can only assume they're also going to draw the Stump's spren, at which point we can compare Truth Watcher spren.
Yes,
we can see which one is which.
What's going on there then?
Yeah, I definitely haven't already rammed this theory down everyone's throats, so I'm not gonna talk about it any further. But,
yes,
cool.
You're utterly convinced Renarin has a corrupted spren at this point, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I finished the book.
And then you finished the book, and yeah.
So in the next scene, Dalinar kind of realizes that he has to pull himself out of this, and he has to try and get back to business as normal.
Yeah.
So he wakes up, he dresses, he bathes, he dresses.
Yeah.
Don't get that order mixed up.
Yeah.
And he decides that he's going to go along to the next allies meeting.
Yeah.
He's on his way there, and he runs into Taravangian, who is having a dumb day.
Yeah.
And his advisors have decided that there is no point taking him to the meeting, so they've just sort of left him.
Yeah.
So Dalinar's like, nah, mate, come with me.
Yeah.
So he takes Taravangian with him to the meeting, and they get there, and Dalinar sort of just wants to pretend that nothing's happened, and Fenn's like, no, mate.
Where have you been?
So he apologizes. He says that, it's okay. He's here to be part of this again. They're currently putting together their defense strategy for Yakaved.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel right to Dalinar.
Yeah.
Then Dalinar realizes that Yakaved isn't going to be the target because the way that it is on the map, it's too hot. It's it's a place that's easy to defend, but hard to attack.
Yeah.
And therefore the best strategy to get into Yakaved would be to go through Phelan City.
Yeah.
So he realizes that is actually the Parshendi target.
Yes.
And they've been throwing them towards Yakoved as a decoy.
Yeah. And they realize that, the Everstorm has been hitting Yakoved, not Yakoved, Phelan City, worse than everyone else, and
Yeah. So then they start switching up tactics to defend Phelan.
Yeah.
And he leaves the meeting and he goes to find Kadash, who's his ardent friend that used to be in his guard.
Yes.
And he's like, hey,
One of the
bro.
few people that knows about the whole everything.
Yeah. He's like, hey, bro, really sorry about what happened back then.
Yeah.
We still cool? And then he offers to give all of the Ardents to Taravangian, because obviously he's now a heretic.
Yeah.
And Taravangian is still a good Vorin follower.
Yeah.
And Kadash is like, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, you being a heretic is cause for us to stay, because it means that we
save
can
your soul.
Yeah, we can help the people. He asks Dalinar if he can write to the people to say that, just because I don't believe that God exists anymore doesn't mean that you should continue following.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar is talking to the Stormfather, and he asks the Stormfather if there's anybody else in the Parshendi troops
For him to talk to.
Well, that's not Odium, but like high up.
Yeah.
And Stormfather's like, there is one that I can see. And Dalinar's like, well, next high storm.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Taravangian.
Yeah.
Who he's in his room and he's told that Graves is dead and they've lost their shards.
Yeah.
Malata tells them that Dalinar's had some visions that he's not made everyone else aware of.
Yeah.
And Taravangian is worried that her Spren won't want to work against the others.
Okay.
But she tells them not to worry because Spark is wanting revenge.
Yes.
And then she draws a pretty pattern in the table.
She burns a pretty pattern in the table.
Burns a pretty pattern in the table.
I'm really interested in the ash spread for two. Well, I have a big interest and a big worry.
Yeah.
My big interest is I want to know more about them because apparently they're still really mad at humans, but still willing to work with the humans to exact revenge for the Recreants.
Yeah.
My second worry is one of the things I really like about Dustbringers is the fact that they were. Apparently, everyone looked down upon them as villains because their names.
They're the fire guys.
They're the fire guys. They're the explodey people, and they burn things. And their name was too similar to Voidbringer,
Yeah.
and so they were seen as being too close to the enemy, which is why they want to be releases. They're apparently a secretive bunch, and also. Their armor makes them look like demons from hell if Steve Argyle's depiction of them is anything to go by, because they're covered in horns and spikes and stuff. I love their depiction. But because they're horrible, but they're actually nice, and they're trying to change that. They were trying to change that view of themselves, because they're like, we are good guys. Like, we are trying to renounce Radiance just like you guys. And so if Brandon throws that aspect of them away and just makes the Dustbringers all bad guys, I really hope he doesn't do that. But yeah.
I don't want him to.
No, I don't. Them being seen as villains but not actually being villains is things that I like about them, and I hope he doesn't just make them villains.
Yeah.
Because, I like the Dustbringers. I like the Dustbringers a lot.
So then the next high storm hits.
Yeah.
And Dalinar is taken into the Norden vision, where it's like the desolation.
Yeah.
And Benley is pulled in as well.
Yes.
The Stormfather says that Odium is aware that this is happening, and he's going to try and hold him back as much as he can.
Yeah.
Benley's confused. She has no idea what's going on.
Yep.
And Dalinar approaches and he tries to talk to her about a truce.
Yeah.
And she demands that they give them a Lethkar.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I can't give you that, but maybe we can work it out so we've got cities, or we're integrated but we're equal.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You can have a Parshendi queen or princess or king or something.
Yeah.
And she's not too pleased with any of that.
Yeah.
And then Odium arrives. And the whole place just falls
apart. We got our Brother Wise call to adventure game, and I'm gonna go get it and then find the card whilst you carry on talking.
Okay, cool. Let's see if we can get the rest of part 4 done. So the place is falling apart, and Dalinar, being a bondsmith, holds the area around him together. And Venli is completely awed by this.
Yes.
And she runs to the area of the palace that he is.
Yeah.
She goes down the stairs, and there's this gigantic hole in the ground, and she's trying to reach Timber because he's floated away.
Yeah.
And she grabs him. She's sort of about to fall in the hole. Dalinar tries to grab her, but she falls, and then she wakes up back in.
She's in just outside Colonar, isn't she?
She is in Marat.
Marat, yes.
She's in Marat, and she's holding Timber.
Okay.
And then we go back to Dalinar, who feels like he's being ripped apart. And Odium tells him that he will, don't worry, I will bring peace to this world once you have finished tearing it apart, Dalinar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is resist Odium.
Oh, I didn't know that was what that was.
Yeah, that's what that's depicting.
That's so cool.
This is this card, guys. If I can get the official artwork, can I get it so it can focus on that? No. If I can get the actual JPEG, PNG. Let's be civilized here. I'll put it up on screen because I love that card. It's a great card. Anyway. So she wakes up in Marat.
I was going to say, you're going to keep your artwork for when we next come across a picture.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
No,
I'm gonna keep that on hand.
Yeah. So Dalinar can hear the Stormfather crying.
Yeah.
At being overwhelmed. And obviously Dalinar's like, oh, if he's overwhelmed.
How what chance do I have?
Yeah. So then the next that we see them, Dalinar is in Phelan City. And he gets a report. He's getting a report from Amaram about what their troops have been doing to help. Yeah. And Amaram's annoyed that they're not going to be in the full force of the fighting because he still thinks that they're going to attack Yakaved. Yeah. And he's just left Sadeas's troops to do this, Parshendi work. Yeah. Then Dalinar goes to sort of the last meeting of the coalition. Yeah. In Thalanar that is sort of finalising the war. Yeah, kind of. Defence. Yeah. Renarin asks if there's any large gems in the city, but won't say why. At which point I'm sure that he's seen some kind of future vision about a gigantic gem. Yeah. I had a feeling it had something to do with the Parshendi, because obviously the giant gems tend to be the uncut. Yeah. Gem hearts gems. Yeah. And the Parshendi use those. Yeah. And I thought maybe they had a way of drawing some kind of I don't know,
using uncut gems in a way the humans hadn't realised. Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that maybe there were some giant gems in the city. Yeah. And the Parshendi were going to use those to explode the city or something. Okay, interesting. I didn't really know where the whole large gem thing was going. Yeah. So that's what I thought. And then Stormfather reveals that cultivation's alive and hiding. Yeah. And in the last vision when Odium appeared, the reason that he didn't splinter him was because he didn't want to give cultivation a warning that he was on Roshar. It's
the way I see it is there's kind of this weird ether that these shards exist in. Yeah. And if you put too much of yourself in one spot, a shard can come in and just splat that spot. Yeah. And so Odium couldn't overcommit himself to attacking the Stormfather because then the cultivation could come in and be
haha. Yeah. Yeah. And then he says that there's another god Spren slumbering. Yeah. I'm still convinced it's Kusakesh. Yeah. I need more Kusakesh. Yeah. I don't know enough about Kusakesh.
Same.
And he is the only other gigantic thing that we don't know about.
Agreed. The giant spren we don't know about.
Yeah.
This is where he mentions the Night Watcher, right?
Yeah, but we don't have to talk about that.
Oh, we don't have to talk about your theory, do we? Do we not?
We don't.
So Lucy now admits that's the Night Watcher.
No, I don't.
Oh, do you not?
I don't.
Sorry, Lucy refuses to admit that the Night Watcher is the other.
I am convinced that Brandon's just wrong about this.
Pondsmith's spren, and it's still just. Is it the Hog? Yeah, or is it? Yeah.
It's still Kusakesh and the Hog. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the meeting's going well.
Yeah.
And Renarin just suddenly up and leaves.
Yep.
And Dalinar's about to go and sort of like follow him.
Yeah.
But all of the spam reads go crazy.
Start blinking away.
There's the high storm has just hit.
Yeah.
Shin.
Yeah.
And it's hit early.
Yes, the Everstorm's hit early, yeah.
So you kind of think that's what they're all talking about.
Yeah.
And then Yasna and Navani like call him over and they're like, hey, we've just had a translation of the Elias Stela?
That's close.
Stella?
Stele. That's how you say that word.
Elias Stele.
Yeah.
And that is something that was written before the First Desolation.
Mm-hmm.
It is the oldest piece of text in all of Roshar.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that humans were the Voidbringers.
Fuck, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about this moment.
And the Pashendi are the actual inhabitants of Roshar. Essentially, the humans came through a void.
Yeah.
They were given Shin as like their lands.
Yeah.
But humans being greedy invaded.
Yeah.
And they enslaved the Pashendi.
Yeah.
They left their homeland because it was a big ball of fire.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that wherever they're from was a planet where Odium was.
Yeah.
And Odium caused them to completely destroy their planet.
Okay.
And I think Odium's been doing that to a lot of planets.
Cool.
I think he's slowly been working his way through the solar system.
Yeah.
And now that he's on this planet, he sort of like sat back and watched the humans. Well, he encouraged the humans to take over.
Yeah.
He then sort of like sat back and waited for the Pashendi to like form enough numbers.
Yeah.
And now he's working the other side.
Yes.
Yeah,
there was definitely I thought in the Alia Stellae that they did mention that Odium was originally their god.
Yeah.
The swap of Odium being the god of the humans to Odium being the god of the Pashendi and Honor being the god of the Pashendi to being the god of the humans. That swap is one of the most confusing parts of that time, because we're like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
Like the Pashendi, the singers talk about the spren betraying them or the Starfather betraying them.
Yeah.
And yeah, they somehow swapped gods. Somehow.
Cool.
It's confusing. And it's one of the things that I'm really interested in is how that happened and how that played out.
That's fair.
But yes, the humans being not from Roshar.
Yeah.
Didn't
see that one coming.
No.
I really didn't.
I'm so proud of the fact I kept this from you because it was so easy to split up. Do you know what? There was even a point a few weeks ago where we were talking and I mentioned that the singers, it was when the few started coming back and I mentioned that the singers are kind of like the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of slipped up. I couldn't reveal the fact that they were the native people that were genocided. I was like, no, shouldn't mention that. And then I was like, I almost
pick up on it.
No, I almost slipped up another time, and I'm so glad that I didn't slip up on this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of.
I'm a little bit upset about it all.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah. That's understandable. It's a big revelation that kind of goes, there's now no easy solution to this war.
No.
Because now it's...
Now no one is in the right here.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for book 4.
Yeah, I know, right?
So Taravangian then receives a message to say that the Radiants were to blame. And it was it's the dangers of the Radiants because the Surge Binders are the ones that destroyed the previous planet and made them come here.
Yeah.
And then Fen she gets a message about how Elhokar swore to Dalinar to make Dalinar the High King.
Yeah.
And she's like, mate, did you bring us all into this to make us be your underlings?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's not what we agreed to here.
Yeah. And then the Nora, who is the head vizier for Azir, gets a message that Dalinar's been keeping back some of his visions.
Yes.
And in his visions, he's been meeting with Odium.
Yeah.
So, none of his allies are happy with him.
Yeah, that is quite the escalation. It's kind of like, we're kind of not the good guys here. Oh, the Radiants who Dalinar is leading might have blown up a planet. Then there's like the whole kind, and then it's like also Dalinar seems to be talking to Odium, and it's like, this is a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coalition is now over.
Yep.
Very much so. Dalinar leaves because he just can't be in the room anymore. Him being in the room is just making it so much worse.
Yeah.
So he goes and he's talking to Stormfather, and Stormfather tells him that the Radiants abandoned their oaths because they found out the truth.
Yeah.
And obviously it just wasn't honourable for them to keep killing the Parshendi when it was the Parshendi's home and they were the invaders.
Yeah.
He worries that the Surge Binders will destroy Roshar.
Yeah.
Like they destroyed Ashen?
Yes. Is Ashen named in the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't know it.
That's fair.
And then the monarchs are all leaving the temple that they had this meeting in.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are heading home.
They're just done.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're going back to their lands. They don't want to be in this war anymore.
Yeah.
And that's
non-Shadesmar stuff in
non-Shadesmar part 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just realised, what I just realised was the fact that the planet that's all burning and like blown up and stuff is called Ashen.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I'm like, wow, that one's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
So, Shadesmar.
Yeah. So we start with Adolin.
Yep.
He's looking around. They're on this like little island surrounded by weird spren.
Yeah.
Kaladin is desperate to get back to Kholinar because he's left all of his men behind.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fight. So he rises up into the air using Stormlight.
Yeah.
And Syl's like, please, Cal, come back.
Yeah, don't do that.
Turns out that the Spren feed off of Stormlight.
Yeah.
So all of these Spren start gathering around Kaladin.
Yeah.
So he realizes, this is a bad idea. So he goes back down.
Yeah.
And Azur explains to Adolin where they are because Adolin is convinced they're in damnation.
Yeah. He
summons his shard blade and the Spren next to him immediately starts screaming. So he's like,
He's like, maybe I won't do that.
Nope. He feels the platform rumbling beneath him and this gigantic claw Spren.
Yeah, you see some giant claws
come out of the depth.
Yeah. Description
matches the hog. Just saying.
Everything on Roshar has claws.
Yeah, but not bear claws. So the way that Shadesmar works is that any land place is where the beads are.
Yeah.
But something like the river, where it doesn't really have objects that need shadows.
Yeah.
So that's flat islandy bits.
Yeah.
Water is island areas.
Because we think of a river as a single object.
Yeah.
So it turns up in a single object whilst all the other objects get little beads and turn into oceans of beads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shallan isn't sure what she can do. Patton tells her that she can't soulcast here, but she can bring the physical objects into Shadesmar using their beads.
Yeah.
So she starts searching around and she finds the control building bead.
Yeah.
And I think a door.
Yeah.
And so she makes them and she uses Stormlight to bring them into Shadesmar. So they climb across them. They realise that they need to get as far away from the Oathgate as they can.
Yeah.
So they sort of like make platforms using these two beads to travel.
Yeah.
Obviously, it uses stormlight to do this. They've got a limited amount of stormlight, so this isn't a long-term solution. This is just to get away as quickly as we can. So they can get to one of the rivers. And then Adolin feels quite powerless throughout this.
Understandably.
Because he's got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So he sees that Kaladin is like really... He's really been affected by...
Yeah.
What's just happened.
Just happened, yeah.
So he starts talking to him, like trying to cheer him up a bit.
Yeah.
And Kaladin knows what he's trying to do, but he
lets him do it anyway.
Yeah, he lets him do it. It's a really sweet moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're friends now.
Yeah.
What's their ship name?
The ship name? Cadolin.
Cadolin.
I assume it would be Cadolin, not Calalin or...
I think it's Calalin.
Aladin.
I think it's Calalin.
Do you reckon it's Calalin? Yeah.
I don't know. Either way,
yeah,
I'm fine with this.
You're a fan. You're a Cadolin fan.
I am.
Good.
Like, I didn't think about it until someone mentioned it last night. I'm so up for it. So he looks over at Azul and realizes that her hair has slightly changed colour.
Yes.
Don't know why.
Yeah.
But they eventually reach shore.
River.
And they're exhausted. They've been travelling for quite some time. And Kaladin is desperate to just get back to join the fight. And they are like, no, we need to set up camp. We need to rest because we're all exhausted. So they make makeshift beds and they're lying down to sleep.
Yeah.
And Adolin realises that he's probably now the king.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Elhokar died. Now, last time you mentioned the Black Sun in Shadesmar and you had a theory about it.
Yeah.
Is that going to come up naturally or do you want to go into that now?
Right. So in the story of the girl who looked up.
Yes.
Where she is like completely pitch black.
Yeah.
Where else is it completely pitch black?
In rooms with no lights on.
No, because she's outside.
Okay.
Where...
You reckon the Black Sun?
No.
Oh, okay. No, where else is it pitch black then?
Where are our characters currently?
Shadesmar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like in Shadesmar?
Dark.
It's all black?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
I think that she was like in the cognitive realm.
Ah, okay.
And like he climbed up the wall.
Yeah.
I think that was like into someone's perpendicularity.
Okay.
And like he pulled something in.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think potentially the sun in Shadesmar?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, like something about the description of Shadesmar really feels like the girl that looked up for me.
Okay, interesting.
I know it's weird. Like I think maybe the world's used to just like the cognitive...
Be completely separate.
No.
Oh.
As in, like, I think the cognitive, spiritual, and physical used to just completely overlap each other.
Yeah.
And I think he did something to separate them.
Who's he?
Hoyd.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
On.
Oh, obviously.
It's always Hoyd. I don't know, like, I think there is something. That's what I'm currently sort of, like...
Do you know what? I was actually...
for.
We on the Rhythm of War American cover...
Yeah.
That has the depiction of the clouds in Shadesmar, and I kind of was looking at those, and I was just thinking, how do you remember how the clouds are in Shadesmar? They're like lines across the sky. They kind of just stripe the sky, and and I was like, I wonder if there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like every little detail, I'm trying to work out if there's something more
behind
it.
Okay,
like Liz, who. We've never heard a scene from since Yasna was like, hey, remember, if anyone takes it out of my family, I'll pay you. And we've never encountered Liz again.
Mm-hmm. I reckon Brandon could come out and say, Liz is no one interesting and we're never going to see her again, and people would still theorize about her.
Because he's just trying to throw us off.
Yes, yeah.
Liz is like actually like the queen of all of Roshar.
Yeah.
She was a herald.
Well, that's like the most common theory, is that she's
there we go.
Shanarak, I want to say, is that she's is the most likely one, I think. But that's a very, very, very common theory.
Well, we know nothing about the female heralds beyond Mistress, so there we go.
Yeah.
She's now a herald.
Yeah, cool. That's fine.
She was definitely in the first book, right?
Yes. No, she wasn't. She was in the second.
Technically.
Technically, she was present.
Szeth might have walked past her in the hallway.
Yeah.
And therefore, she was in it.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah. Kaladin is dreaming about back when he was in
the army.
Sadeas's army.
Yes.
He had a girlfriend?
He did. He had a girlfriend.
I know he's mentioned her a couple of times, but like we've never had anything about her.
I think he's had a couple of girlfriends. So
this one seems to be like the main one.
Yeah.
But he was always worrying about his like friends and troops getting hurt.
Yeah.
And he was being disciplined for freezing up during training, and his punishment was to scrape creme off of the bunker floor.
Yeah.
And his sergeant was like, well, now the other guys will like you more because you're not so perfect.
Yeah.
It's quite cute.
Do you remember the girl's name? No. I want to say it was Tara. Is it not on there?
It could be Tara. I think it is Tara. It begins with a T.
Yeah, I want to say it's Tara. And do you remember how she's described? I'm going to say no.
I mean, her description reminds me of Yasna, I'm not going to lie.
That's fair. No, so the way she's described is I want to say she's Phelan, and I want to say she wears a distinctive outfit where she's got like a Harva on, but then like overalls over the Harva, which is kind of seen as weird. Now, here's a throwback to the past. Do you remember the scene early on in Oathbringer where Ishnar and Shallan are trying to teach her group of people to read a room without people noticing?
Yeah.
And then Ishnar's like, oh, Shallan, show them how it's done. And she immediately recounts every single person in the room and what that person looks like.
Yeah.
Yes, guess what's in that room?
Is it someone matching her description?
It's someone matching Tara's description. But I don't know if you guys knew about that. That was one of our... That took us a while to notice that one. Cool. So yeah, it's potentially that she's in Ethereal.
Cool.
Yeah. That's the end of that sentence.
Cool. So then Kaladin wakes up and he's sitting there brooding.
Yeah.
Syl comes over and sits next to him, and she like rests her head on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he can feel it.
Yeah.
Because normally when they're in the physical realm, he can't feel her. He just knows that she's there. And he asks her if he can get a message to Dalinar in the physical realm.
Yeah.
But she doesn't think that she can because she's bonded to him and he's in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
So Zill's just very concerned about him.
Understandable.
And she just wants him to be okay.
Yeah.
So Adolin wakes up and he's still feeling overwhelmed and completely useless. So he sits there and he starts talking to the girl with the scratched out eyes.
Yeah.
Which is quite cute.
Yeah.
I just wish it happened more.
Yeah.
And Shallan and Azure are taking stock of their resources. So they know how much food and water and stormlight they have.
Yeah.
They work out that they need to find a town soon because they are running quite low. They've only got like 3 days worth of food.
Yeah.
Well, 3 people's worth of food for 4 people.
Yes.
So they need food. Adolin does a Katara?
A Qatar.
Qatar.
Katara is one of the main characters of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Could be doing her.
Yeah. Leaving that in.
Thanks. So he's doing one to try and calm himself down, give him a bit of routine, because that's what he normally does.
Yeah.
As Yor sees, and she joins in.
Yeah.
She knows the exact same one.
Yeah.
In the exact same way. And she talks about the person who taught her was a really good swordsmith. And Adolin's like, yeah,
guy taught me was also a really good swordsman.
Yeah, and they have a lot of similarities.
Oh, fancy that.
And then Kaladin, who also learnt from the same guy.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah, he comes over and joins in.
Wow.
But he isn't as good because he's not as
just
practiced. So yeah, they're all just doing that. And Shallan's like, do you guys really have to be dancing right now? We've got places to be.
Yeah. And they're all like boogieing down. It's great.
Azure tells them that the only way they can get back to the physical realm is to find cultivation's perpendicularity.
Yep.
Which is in the Horneater Hills.
Peaks, yeah.
It's that little pool that Rock was talking about.
Yes.
It's quite cute.
Yeah.
And that she needs to get back because she's going through Roshar trying to find a criminal.
Ooh.
Who matches the description of the guy that taught her the guitar.
Interesting.
I know.
Isn't she hunting? I think she specifies she's hunting. She's not hunting.
She's not hunting Vasher. She's hunting his sword.
Yes.
But she's obviously last saw it with him, so
Yeah.
that's where she's got to look first.
How weird is it that Nightblood is considered the criminal? Like,
I mean, to be fair,
yeah,
it's a sword that can literally destroy everything.
yeah, but it's not the sword's fault if it's used to kill someone.
I mean,
Like,
I get that, but obviously they don't want this rogue sword in Roshar.
that's fair. Yeah.
Fair. So the best way to get there is to get on a ship and sail there. And in order to do that, they've got to go to a town.
Yes.
And as they're sort of like working out where to head first, they suddenly hear a screeching in the distance. Because Kaladin, with all of his like anger and anxiety and brooding, has managed to attract some bad spren.
Yes.
So they need to run.
Yeah.
So they're sort of like marching quickly away from where they were.
Yeah.
And Phelan tells the humans that they need to stop feeling emotion because their emotions are drawing the spren.
Yeah.
And this makes Kaladin really angry.
Yeah.
And when they're like, dude,
You need to
you
stop.
okay?
Yeah.
And he sort of like comes out and he's like, no, I feel like we're abandoning Kholinar. And they're like, but it's not rational to try and go back there. We can't get through the gate.
Yeah.
And that gets more anger spren.
Yeah.
And obviously he can't get rid of these emotions. Like, he can't just switch them off like some kind of robot.
Yeah.
So as they're going, he starts just trying to distract himself by looking at the Shadesmar scenery that they pass.
Yeah.
And the anger spren eventually start to retreat.
Yeah.
They have a couple of days of like walking and camping.
Yeah.
And whilst they do this, Kaladin is getting to know Syl a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
So they're talking and he asks her, you know, well, in this realm, where do you live?
Yeah.
And she explains that all of the Honor Spren live together in this Honor Spren town.
Yes. City. Yeah.
And that's where she was locked up. And she tells him about how she was bonded to a human before him.
Yeah.
But that human died just before the Recreants.
Yes.
And so that's how she survived.
She was the only honest friend.
Yeah.
That wasn't bonded.
Yeah. And then after a couple of years, the Stormfather found her.
Yeah.
And like she had just been sort of like crying in a corner for years because she was upset about it.
Yeah.
And he forbade her from ever leaving the city again. But she knew that she had to because she could feel Kaladin needed her.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they see a light in the distance and it's a lighthouse.
Yes.
Yeah. So then Kaladin uses his sort of like sneaky skills to approach the lighthouse whilst the others wait nearby.
Yeah.
And he tries to kick away some anticipation spren, but he can't get them to leave him alone, so he just has to ignore them.
They're the big froggy ones with the long tongues, aren't they?
Yeah. So he peeks through the window and he sees an old Shin man sitting reading by spearlight.
Yeah.
And he somehow senses that Kaladin's out there. So
Somehow.
So he calls out to him, and Kaladin obviously reveals himself.
Yeah.
The Shin Man thinks that Kaladin is there to have his fortune read, so he reveals this glowing crystal ball.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, no, I just want passage with my friends.
Yeah.
And then he's mesmerized by the strange glowing light coming out of the globe.
Yeah.
So he reaches out and he touches it. And he's carried away by the approaching high storm.
Okay.
Like, the high storm's passing over this area. So, like, the worlds sort of, like, come close together during this time.
Yep.
So he sort of gets charged up by
the high storm.
The high storm whilst he's touching this ball. And because of that, it allows him to see a vision.
Yeah.
So in his vision, there's, like, swirling colours and clouds and stuff. And he has a vision of Dalinar in grave danger, surrounded by 9 shadows.
Yeah.
And he asks where it is, and he sees a city, like a city next to the ocean.
Yeah.
And the vision fades, and the fortune teller is amazed because that doesn't normally happen.
I believe his exact words are, "Merciful Domai, what heightening are you?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's
If anyone was wondering when a world hopper is going to start turning up in Shadesmar, it's like, here's your big alarm.
Yeah.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best. As like the people, like as Cosmere people waiting for like the Cosmere stuff to go on, that one line is enough for us to go very excited.
Yeah. So he tells him that he's a surge binder.
Yep.
Cool. I forgot the word then.
There you go.
So while this is happening, Shallan is hiding behind this like strange mushroom thing.
Yeah.
And she's trying to sketch, but Vale is taking over.
Buddy Vale.
Yeah, and because of that, Vale's not good at sketching, so she doesn't
sketch well.
And Adolin comes up and he starts complaining about only having one outfit to wear. It's a hard life.
It is.
And Shallan's concerned about Kaladin, but Adolin's like, it's alright, like, he'll be fine, we just have to keep giving him little jobs to do for us to take his mind off of things. And then they see this like strange glory spren approaching.
Yeah.
But it's been corrupted, it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
And it lands on Shallan's arm. And she hears the voice of
Sciarnot.
Thank you. And it tells her that Odium has minions on this side and they're searching for her.
Yeah.
She lied to him and said that they were quite far away from the actual point they were in the hopes that she can slow them down. But she also said that Odium doesn't really trust her anymore.
Yeah.
Because obviously she was supposed to kill them and she didn't. And then it flies away. So then they are all in the lighthouse together. They're getting rations. The weird Shin guy has a canned thing, like canned food.
Tinned food, yeah.
There's only one planet we know of with tinned food.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. So if you didn't already know, this guy was a world hopper.
Yeah.
He's got tinned food.
Yes.
So he's been to the best planet in the Cosmere.
If Merciful Domai and Heightenings didn't give it away, the tinned food should.
Sorry. So they're sort of making sure they've got enough food. And he mentions that there's a boat coming soon that will take them to one of the big Spren cities.
Yeah.
Kaladin asks Shallan for some paper so that he can draw the vision that he's just had. And they all agree that it looks like Phelan City. So Kaladin thinks that they should go there and try and get through the Oath Gate.
Yeah.
Azura is like, no, we can only get out through the perpendicularity, so that's where we need to go.
Yeah.
And Adolin is quite sensible, and he's like, look, we just get to the city, we see what boat we can get,
and we'll make a decision then.
We'll make a decision then.
Did you know that the lighthouse keeper, I don't know if he's got a name in the book, but he's called Rhino.
Yeah.
And you may remember him as a gentleman from Elantris.
I assumed he was from there.
Yes, it's good to assume that. But no, he is specifically the old Elantrian that they find.
Cute.
Yeah, that they find, they help him into the pool to let him go. And they think he died, and it looks like he didn't die. He just transformed to realms and somehow survived the firestorm that is the Cell cognitive realm. So yeah.
So Vin's dead, but he's not.
So Vin died, but Rhino survived for some reason.
So glad.
Yeah.
Just give me Vin.
Yeah.
So they're now on a boat.
Yeah.
The boat is crewed by Lightspren.
Yes.
Also known as Reachers.
Yeah.
And the captain has this like little water device that like slowly
manifests
catches water.
Yeah.
So he shows Kaladin how to use that. And then Kaladin goes up to Syl, who has asked Shallan for a light weaving disguise.
Yes, so that she's not a...
So that they don't recognise her as an honor spren.
Yes, because honor spren aren't very well liked.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I assume that, like, she was an important honor spren.
She's the ancient daughter. She's, like, the most important honor spren.
Yeah, but as in, like, she would be easily recognised.
Yes, yeah.
She is quite convinced that Kaladin and Shallan should be a thing.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yes, Syl. Good girl.
Good Syl.
So she encourages Kaladin to go and talk to Shallan because she's alone, sitting there sketching. So he goes over and he notices that her drawings look a little bit childlike.
Yeah.
So obviously that's Vale.
She's Vale right now.
Yeah. So they're talking about so he goes over and they're talking about the Mandra.
Yes.
That are pulling the ship.
Yeah.
They're like these like cool whale floaty fly things. Quite cute.
They are cool. And they I believe they are the spren, or the head is in the shape of the spren that they see around Chasm Fiends.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of implies there's some connection there, and
And then Shallan says that with the speed they're going, it'll probably be like 2 days till they get to the Spren city. So then we go to Adolin, who is in his cabin. Yeah. They have traded some Stormlight for some clothing from the Spren on the ship. Yeah. Because Spren like to dress up in this world. Yeah. And, like, they're not particular, they just sort of like clothes. Yeah. So Adolin is fashioning his outfit. Yes. So obviously it didn't really fit him, so he's like made it so it fits. He's cut one of the coats down so it's more like a jacket, like a waistcoat type jacket. Yeah. It's looking very fashionable. Do
you know, a detail I really like is the fact that, you know how it's one-handed things are female and two-handed things are male in Voran society?
Yes.
So writing is female and like holding a sword is male.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that also, and that's why they're knocking the door with one hand versus knocking the door with two hands. But then also, one thing I really like is that also means that in Voran society, sewing is male because you need two hands to sew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like that detail.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right.
It took me a while to work out what you were saying.
That's okay.
So after he's finished making his outfit, he goes to show off the others on deck, and they're actually quite impressed because he's done a really good job. Yeah. And Azure and him are talking. Yeah. And they notice that another high storm is passing in the physical realm above them. And whilst it's passing, they notice that the Spren on the ship...
They like put their hands up and they go glowy.
Yeah, like they react to it. And it seems that whenever the storm goes above, it recharges them. Yeah. So then she's talking to Adolin about... Obviously, it's unusual for a man to be sewing. Yeah. Because it is unusual.
In... Who says this?
Azure.
Yes, because in other places
Well,
it's
he's
unusual.
royal.
Yeah. Oh, also he's royal. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then she talks about... they're talking about royals in general. And she says that she knows a princess who abdicated in favour of somebody that's better for the job.
Does she now?
She does.
Yeah.
Can't imagine who she's talking about. And Adelin's like, well, why would anyone do that? And he's like, well, sometimes if someone's better for the job, it's better that they're in the job.
Yeah.
And he just can't really comprehend it.
Yes.
And then the captain tells Adelin to come with him to retrieve his dead eyes. Because that's what they call...
Yeah. The scratch out eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Do you not like it?
No. She has been locked up in the rig.
Yeah.
Because apparently, like, those Spren are quite mindless.
Yeah.
And if he let her wander around the ship, she would have just sort of fallen overboard.
Fallen overboard, yeah.
So they take her out of the room and he notices that there's another one locked in there.
Yeah.
And the captain says that that's his dad. He used to be a Radiant Spren.
Yeah.
But he obviously didn't make it.
Yeah.
And so now he keeps him in there so that he's still there, but it's safe for him.
Yeah.
And then he comments on his daughter running off to become a Radiant Spren.
Yeah.
Now there's only one glowy Spren that we have encountered.
Yeah.
And that is Timber.
Yeah.
Benley Spren.
Yes.
So immediately I messaged Ben and I was like...
straight away.
I was like, Timber.
Yes.
And you were like, yeah.
There's sometimes I'm like, your theories are so wrong. And there are other times where I'm like, I don't know how you pick up on these details. Because you do so many people don't pick up on the fact that that captain's daughter is Timber. And like, yeah.
She's the only one though.
But like, I don't know how you put together that these metal people were also the same as the little glowy pulse of light. Like,
because they're light Spren.
Yeah.
So they're light.
Yeah, I
didn't see them as metal.
Yeah.
I don't know where you got metal from.
I thought they're metallic. The reaches in the cognitive realm are metallic, aren't they?
I don't know, but like they're light Spren, so I assume that they're made of light.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure they're metallic. That's why they touch the metal on this. They like to touch the metal. There's like a strip of metal around the rim of the boat that they like to touch. Yeah, do you not remember that? Yeah, because they like to. I think they communicate through it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And then anyway, they are now docked in the Spren City.
Yeah.
It's decided that a Radiant is going to go with each group. Shallan and Azure are going to take Patton and Syl, and they're going to try and book passage on a ship.
Yeah.
They're either going to try and go to Phelan or they're going to try and go to the Perpendicularity, whichever one they can get a boat to.
Yeah.
Kaladin and Adelin are going to go into the market and get them some more supplies because they're running low again.
Yeah.
So then we split off.
Yeah.
So walking through the market, Kaladin notes that there doesn't seem to be any children Spren.
Yeah.
So then he asks Syl how reproduction works.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand how it works. It seems that I don't know.
It does seem that you don't know.
They don't seem to need to make a lot.
Yeah.
Because Spren live for like ever.
Yeah.
Like Spren don't die.
Yeah.
So they don't really need to make baby Spren very often.
Yeah. So
it seems that
when they do, I think they just kind of
make them
come into being. They're just there. I know when the Stormfather made the Honor Spren that came after Syl's generation. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the Stormfather can't make. Maybe the Stormfather does make all the Spren. I don't know. It would seem weird if the Stormfather. But like, how would you make new patterns, or how would you make? Actually, do you know what? I reckon I know how you make a new pattern. I bet they sit there and they just do a really complicated equation and it just kind of comes out of it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, Spren reproduction, I still don't understand.
That's fine. Neither do I.
Cool. And whilst Adelin is talking to one of the merchants, Kaladin looks over at a painting stall and he sees a weird painting that looks like someone with 9 shadows.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he walks over to the stall.
Yeah.
And
is this the painting where it's a big red field with black in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Spren who runs that stall tells him that the painting is from the court of the gods.
Mm-hmm. Do you recognize the painting? It's the painting that Lightsong looks at and says he sees Nightblood. He thinks he sees a city burning and things red, and a man with a black sword in the middle. Yeah, it's the same painting.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
I'm happy about this.
Yeah, the priest who said they burnt it lied.
Well, they might have done, but it lives on in the cognitive realm.
Yeah, maybe someone manifested it, yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. This section is filled with stuff like that, where it's all connections to other books.
Cool.
Yeah.
But the Spren tells Kaladin that everyone that looks into it sees something different.
Yeah.
And Kaladin thinks that he's now seen the Nine Unmade and that he needs to reach at Dalinar as quickly as he can.
Yeah.
He then hears a disturbance, so he runs back to Adolin.
Yeah.
Pushes him into the nearest tent.
Yeah.
Just in time, as it seems that some Spren recognise Syl even though she's got a disguise on.
Yeah.
And Syl then tells Kaladin that she has to hide her identity because she's currently a wanted Spren.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that finds her, there's a very large bounty on her head to return her to the Honor City.
Yeah, the Honor City,
the Stormfather.
Yeah.
So, now they're in a bit of trouble because that can't go too well.
No, because they do not want her captured.
No. So Kaladin then pulls her away and they see smoke up ahead.
Yes.
So I'm going to leave that there, because
Okay.
whilst that's been going on, like this one sort of like switches between Kaladin and Shallan.
Yeah.
So whilst they were doing that, Shallan was talking to the dock registrar about what ships are going to near where they need to be.
Yeah.
And like which ones are likely to take human passengers, that kind of thing. So he gives her a list and she starts going to the ships to ask them.
Can you take us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's willing to.
Yeah.
And they finally find a boat that's like, yeah, I'll take you, but can you give me like 5 minutes, come back after my inspection?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. Don't really know about these inspections, but okay, I will come back in 5 minutes. And as they walk away, they look over at the ship that they travelled to the city in. And there is currently a fused on board.
Yes.
Talking to the captain.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes back to the dockmaster. And she's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, the city is run by...
the Fused.
The Fused.
Yeah. Did you not know?
Did you not know?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, could you have not told us? And he was like, I don't know why people think I should have to tell them things. And it's like, this is why no one likes the pattern Spren.
Yeah.
So then she looks out the window and the Fused has set the ship on fire that they arrived on.
Yeah.
And she quickly disguises her azure pattern and scratchy eyes.
Yeah.
So that they won't be recognised because the Fused is coming their way.
Yeah.
He like bursts into like the office and he's angry that the dockmaster didn't tell him about the humans that have just arrived that match the descriptions of who he's looking for.
Yeah.
And the pattern guy is like, well, they didn't match them exactly. What do you expect from me? And then he's like, they went into the market, go to the market.
Yeah.
So the Fused flies off and Shallan's like, right,
we need to get out of here.
We need to leave. Luckily at this moment, Kaladin and Adolin and Syl have run back and like found the ship on fire. So they come out and they're like, yo, we're here, we're fine, but we need to leave now.
Yeah.
And then they see that the fused is like making its way back.
Yeah.
And all of the ships have started to like leave because they don't want to end up like the last one.
Yeah.
And Syl's like, right, I've got an idea. She gets the illusion dropped and she's like, hey, honor spren ship, I'm here.
Yeah.
Come and take me. So they take Syl prisoner. In their rush to escape, the others get onto the boat.
Yeah.
And they can't kick them off because otherwise the fused is going to catch up with them.
Yeah.
So they have to take them. They've now spent the last week locked up in the prisoner cell of the honor spren ship.
Yeah.
The honor spren realises it probably wasn't honourable to keep them locked up, so he's let them out.
Yeah.
Kaladin immediately kicks up a fuss as to why they haven't freed Syl.
Yeah.
Gets himself locked back up for another week.
Yeah.
Shallan as Vale suggests that they hold a mutiny.
Yeah.
And Kaladin is like, no, can you not just grab a couple of beads and we'll just use them to escape like we did before?
Yeah.
And she's like, mate, we've barely got any stormlight left.
We can't do that.
We can't do that. We might need that stormlight when we get to our destination.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's going to be awaiting us.
Yeah.
At this point, they've learned that the perpendicularity which they're heading near is now run by the fused.
Yes.
And there is no chance that they're going to be able to get through that safely.
Yes. I believe there's also an unmade over there. I want to say Moalock is over there.
I don't know.
One of the unmade is over there as well.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So they have decided that their best chance is Phelan.
Yeah.
Azure is quite insistent that
she's going to the perpendicularity.
Yeah, she's not really part of them. She's got her own objective. She knows how to get out, so that's where she's going. So, in order to make sure of that, she has promised the honor ship captain that if they take her to where she needs to go, she'll tell them the secret of how she made her shard blade. Yes. So it's definitely not an honor blade like I wanted it to be. Yeah. It also doesn't seem to be a shard blade. It seems to be something else.
Do you want me to tell you what it is?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good. The honor spren also tell her that they might have information about her bounty that she's here to collect.
Yes.
Because they've had reports of a sword that leaks black smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want her to catch a nightblood.
Yeah. Might not be too bad, you know.
Kaladin has gone up onto the top deck that they've been told not to go onto.
Yes.
And he's talking to the captain about how it's not honourable to keep Syl locked up. And the captain still is quite insistent he doesn't want to release her.
Yeah.
And Kaladin is contemplating the fourth ideal.
Yes.
And suddenly, like, lots of, like, little lights appear around him.
Yeah.
And, like, it causes quite a commotion on the deck.
Yes.
Kaladin has somehow managed to pull Windspren from the physical realm.
Yeah.
And those spren never come into the cognitive realm because there's no wind there for them to float on.
Yeah.
So they're all, like, amazed because they've never seen Windspren.
Yeah.
And it's all, like, caused quite a commotion. And then Kaladin tells them that he's a windrunner and there's a bondsmith.
Yeah.
And he's bonded to the Stormfather and he's in danger.
Yeah.
And the captain's astonished because they didn't
know
any of this. And the others are, like, watching what's gone on. Vale is quite amazed by it, and Adlin notes that reaction.
Yes.
And he is wondering how he can compete because he's not
a radiant.
He's not a radiant.
Yeah.
And the lookout calls that she can see some fused heading their way.
Yes. So, before we get onto that, who wants some boat facts? Because Lucy's going to have a drink while I tell you a boat fact. So, the extra deck that the honor spren have above the reachers working the ship, right? That was a normal thing to have on, like, human real sailboats, because that was a bridge that was built above the top deck that was for the officers and the rich people to be above the people working the boat, the poor people, right? And that was the command deck because that's where the officers were, and that was called the bridge because it was a bridge over the deck, right? And that is why the command deck on boats, even to this day, is called a bridge, despite it not being a bridge anymore.
Cool.
Boat facts. Let me know if you want more boat facts in other videos. Anyway.
So whilst they were on the deck,
Yeah.
Shallan managed to convince them to let her study the spheres
Yes.
as part of her training.
Yeah.
So they had got her a bucket full of the spheres.
Yeah.
And she was like looking for large objects, and she pocketed a couple.
Yeah.
And now that the fused are coming, they've agreed to let Syl go.
Yeah.
They're going to keep going on their course with Azure, and hopefully the fused will follow, not find them there, and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
The other guys are going to jump out, try and get to the nearest bit of land. They're kind of near
the Phelan
City anyway, so they're quite near to where they need to be. They might be able to make it.
Yeah.
So they jump off holding hands. When they get underneath the beads, like to the bottom of the sea, Shallan makes a large structure.
Yeah.
So they're like able to move through the beads
within the structure in the beads. Yeah.
Yeah, and they eventually make it to a bit of land. They hide in the trees until Syl tells them that the fused have left. And then they Kaladin lashes everyone together and they fly towards Phelan City.
Nice.
Yeah. And so in order to, now that they're a bit closer, in order to conserve Stormlight, they're walking again. And so they are obviously desperate to get to Phelan City before whatever terrible thing happens to Dalinar happens.
Yeah.
And they're close to the city. They go over the top of like a hill and they can see the Oath Gate, and it is just covered in fused.
Yes.
An enemy spren.
Enemy spren, yes.
Thousands of enemy spren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we leave them.
Mm-hmm. So that's the end of part 4.
Yeah, it might be a little bit difficult to get through that.
How did you like part 4? Because part 4, some people really hate, some people really love.
I did not like part 4.
You didn't like it?
I felt like part 3 was like big and dramatic, and then part 4 was just slow.
Yeah.
Like nothing really happens.
It's just characters. Well, nothing happens to the Shadesmar stuff.
Talking.
Which is the Shade...
It's just talking.
Yeah.
Like the Shadesmar stuff, they just make their way through Shadesmar.
Yeah. And if you like care about that stuff, it's really interesting. If you don't, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Shadesmar, but like not for a whole section.
Yeah.
I like the Dalinar flashbacks in this section.
Yes, they're probably the best Dalinar flashbacks of the book.
Yeah, but like I didn't enjoy the constant just meetings.
Yeah.
I really hated the Szeth stuff.
Yes.
I was glad there was no Moash section.
Oh, God, could you imagine?
That just would not have been appreciated.
Yeah.
Cool. Interludes.
Interludes.
So Venli is now speaking to a group of Phelan parshmen.
Yeah.
And she's speaking more emotionally and passionately to them because that's how she's being told to address them.
Yeah.
And she, once she finished her speech, she just turns to leave because she's been told that she's not allowed to stay and answer questions and talk to them anymore. She wonders if it's because Odium and the Fused are afraid that
she's gonna give the game away.
Yeah. She is walking back to her cave and an insane Fuse just comes and grabs her. Yeah. And like flies her to one of the ships in the harbour. Yeah. And like dumps her onto one of the ships waiting there.
Oh, okay.
And Rhine is waiting for her.
Yeah.
And he tells her that she is going to sail with them in the assault.
Okay.
And she's surprised. She's like, why
are you bringing me?
Yeah, I can't fight. And he's like, look, you just need to be here because we need a translator.
Yeah.
And yeah. That's
Venli's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I like this one.
Yeah.
Risen.
And then we get a Risen interlude.
We get a Risen interlude.
I remember as you were reading it, you were getting near the end of part 4, and you were like, why haven't we had any Risen interludes yet? And I'm like, oh my god, just read a little bit longer.
Yeah. So Risen is paralyzed from the waist down now.
Yeah.
So she's in this like cool wheelchair.
Yeah.
And it turns out that she has been traded to Queen Fen.
Yeah.
Because she can't be a merchant anymore because she can't get around. Instead, she has become a
accountant, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Queen Fen.
Oh, she's like an insurance accountant or something.
I don't know her exact job description. Yeah. But anyway, she's in Phelan City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh no, there's a big battle that's going to happen here.
I know. Her and Chiri go down into the vault to inspect the treasures because every day they've got to audit them.
Yes.
Make sure that every gem is still there.
Yeah.
Because Phelan seem to keep all of their gems in
a gem
vault.
Reserve. Yeah.
And they just sort of trust each other that they now have those gems.
Yes.
Like someone will trade like for an emerald, but they won't physically hand it over. It will just get moved to that person's place in the vault.
Yes.
That's my understanding of it.
Yes. If it helps, that's just what banks do these days. Yeah.
I know it's like a modern bank system.
Yeah.
It was just really cool.
Yes.
So she's doing the auditing like normal.
Yeah.
She's being careful of Chiri because Chiri sucks in Stormlight.
Yes.
And they're surrounded by Stormlighty gems.
Yeah, so she has to be like, no, Chiri.
Yeah, he likes his little like shin grass pot that he lives in. So she enters the vault, and it's like this special vault where 3 different people need to give permission to get in.
Yeah.
So you only know those people can get into the vault that have permission of all 3, because all 3 have to enter the codes separately. So she gets in with a couple of guards. She obviously can't walk around, so she needs people to help her.
Yeah.
Because she's got to like get down some steps. And someone's waiting to transfer her into a palanquin.
Yeah.
Palanquin,
yeah.
Because her chair is too big to fit between the aisles of the gems. So she's checking them out. It's quite dark in there, but a lot of the gems have now lost stormlight from how long they've been in there. So, like, she's not really suspicious of any of that. She goes into Vault 13, which is Queen Fen's personal vault.
Yeah.
And it's got this gigantic ruby in there.
Yes.
That is the King's Drop.
Yes.
And it is this huge ruby that's quite famous.
Yeah.
Because it's like 200 years old and it's never lost stormlight.
Yeah.
And it's also not left this vault.
Yeah.
But like the stormlight
has never run out.
Yes. Which is pretty cool. And an unfamiliar guard appears and he stabs the guards that are with her.
Yeah. He
stabs the merchant that she'd been travelling around with and locks him in the vault.
Yeah.
And there's just this big fight to try and keep hold of the King's Drop.
Yeah.
And try and get help to kill this guard.
Yeah.
So she like ties it to her leg and she's pulling herself down the corridor.
Yeah.
And Chiri is feeding off the ruby.
Yeah.
And she gets back to where her chair is. And the guard that was waiting there has been stabbed and he had a crossbow, so she grabs the crossbow, and Chiri Chiri is like flying around the thief.
Yeah.
And he's drawing in the void light from the thief.
Yeah.
At which point it's revealed that that person is a fused.
Yeah.
Who had put some sort of like illusion over themselves.
Yeah.
And once all of the void light is out of him, she shoots him with a crossbow and kills him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah. So Chiri Chiri likes to eat investiture.
Yeah.
As Larkins wants to do.
Yeah.
And revealed that it was a fused. And then Rissyn got her first kill.
Yeah. It was really cool.
It was very, very cool.
And that means that her and Chiri Chiri are in the city during the siege.
Mm-hmm. Which is not good.
I know it's not good, but it also explains why Renarin.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why Renarin was asking about large gemstones.
Large gemstones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also the interlude where Vistim appears and gives Rissyn his boat.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can't forget about the boat.
Oh, how could I forget?
Yeah.
So he realises that she's not enjoying just being an accountant person. So he buys her a boat so that she can still be a merchant and she can still travel around in her own boat.
Yeah.
And that's the string that she uses to tie the gem to her leg.
Ah.
Sorry.
Oh, because it's the string. It's you
like
come on.
Give people a string as like boat ownership.
Yes.
Sorry.
Because then you tie it in knots to denote command. Yes.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah.
And then we get our last one, which is theft. So a lot of Bridge 4 were at the meeting because obviously they're going to be there during the assault.
Yeah.
But upon hearing that they're the bad guys, they feel that it's important for the rest of Bridge 4 that weren't there to know so they can discuss what to do next. Yeah. So they all go back through the Oath Gate. They get to
Irithiru.
Yep. And Tef Spren is encouraging to say the words. But he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah. They get back to their barracks and they realise that something terrible's happened. Yeah. They go in and all of Bridge 4 are lying on the ground. Yeah. Dead.
Not all.
I know not all. There's a couple that have managed to survive by drawing in Stormlight, but only those that were able to draw Stormlight in without a Radiant being there.
I believe only one of them died.
I think a few died, but like the unnamed Bridge 4 members. Yeah. So Rock was badly hurt, but he managed to draw in Stormlight. Yeah. And so did Bizig. Bizig? Bizig? Yeah, Bizig. Yeah.
That sounds like a Bridge 4 member that is a person.
Yeah. The honour blade that they had been given was taken. Yeah. In fact, they were attacked so that somebody could get that honour blade. Yeah. And it came from somebody wearing a Bridge 4 coat with lieutenant knots. Yeah. I knew that was going to come back to bite them. Yeah. I didn't want it to, though.
Yeah. Poor Teft.
Yeah, so he runs out in shame.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a fun interlude.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's part 4.
That's part 4 interludes. So yeah, we should be done next episode. Any last thoughts before we leave?
Not really. Like, with part 4, I always find that parts 4 and 5, well, part 4 in particular, doesn't really set anything new up. Yeah. Like, you get a couple of payoffs, but you don't really get anything new to
Part 4 was always weird ones, because, like, part 4 in Way of Kings was the Battle of the Tower, and then part 5 is basically just an extended epilogue. Part 4 in Words of Radiance is the Kaladin Shalon Chasm fun. Yeah. And that's its own kind of
Yeah.
side story. And then part 4 in here is this Shadesmar trip and the Dalinar politicking.
Yeah.
That part 4 is always odd. So
Yeah.
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 So cool. We'll jump into part 5 next time.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see where that goes. Let us know what you think of part 4. Did you like the Shadesmar bit, or were you one of these people that didn't? What's your opinion on the fact that humans are not native to Roshar?
And how happy were you that Moshe wasn't in this section?
And how happy were you that Moshe wasn't in this section? So, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Follow us on 17shard.com. We have a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube, a Discord to talk to us. When you wake up in the morning, step outside, take a deep breath, and get real high. We have a Patreon, so give us money. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.